All right.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah, we
Oh,
see
this
that big
guy.
blue.
This guy. Here
What's up,
we
guys?
go. How's it going, man?
Man, I'm doing well. How are y'all doing?
We're good. We're good. We love these Wednesday nights to talk about our Commanders.
Let's go.
You got a good team to talk about this year, so it must be a lot more fun.
It's been a lot of fun this year. Very good. And we've got a big game this weekend.
Huge game.
I mean, okay, so back in August, we're thinking here, come first week of December, was this going to be as meaningful as it was? And, there's no way any of us could have thought about that.
Certainly not. It's a good thing to be talking about an important game in Giants for the December instead of talking about what draft pick they're gonna have.
What top 5 draft pick?
Exactly.
Yeah, where are we gonna go? I know. We talk about, as we call it, we take the Lexus commercial tagline. It's a December to remember.
Okay, very good.
That's all we look for.
Well, you get 3 straight weeks of Giants focus, so
I know.
Enjoy it. Enjoy watching us for the next couple of weeks.
What a crazy schedule! Yeah, Washington goes Giants, bye week Giants. You guys go obviously the same, and then you mix in the Eagles as well.
Right.
I actually was looking at your schedule. The last 6 games of the season, 5 of them are all playoff teams right now.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough road, especially the way we've been playing the last couple of weeks. It's going to be interesting to see if everything just kind of falls off the tracks here. So
right. Well, so let's kind of jump into that. So you've got a first-year head coach in Brian Daboll. No one thought you'd be 7-4. Everyone predicted you to be the fourth place of the division. So what's happened?
It's strange. He seems to be holding the players kind of accountable, off the field in more cases than we've seen in the past, I think. Guys like Kenny Galladay can't even get on the field, trading Kadarius Toney after I don't know what his whole deal is. He can't get on the field, but when he does, he's good, but I don't know, problems. So they get rid of him. So he seems to be kind of changing the not only in-game culture, but kind of how things go, I think, in the facility from day to day. But I got to admit that I kind of felt the same way about Joe Judge after his first season.
You were a Judge fan.
I was a Judge fan, and his kind of Judge's good stretch came in after a 1-7 start. So you were kind of felt like, oh, look at him. He's changing things. He's got us on track. He's doing all this good stuff. And Daboll comes out of the gate so hot, and then you're like, well, this is amazing. Is he ever going to lose? And then, and now we've kind of hit a little bit of reality, I think, and seeing some of the talent depth issues that we have with a lot of injuries and things like that. And so to fall now to 7-4, have this tough stretch coming up, it's going to be, I don't know. I'm still not sold. I don't know if it's something that can last. It was a flash in a pan. Like, what kind of deal is it? But there's 2 things that I do think that are different from his last, or from the last regime, so to speak. So we seem to have a better plan going into games that depends on who we're playing. Some weeks Daniel Jones is running a lot. Some weeks Barkley's getting 35 carries. Some weeks we're just kind of dropping back and throwing it. So I feel like they have sort of a more game plan specific to who the team we're playing is, as opposed to like, oh, we're going to do what we do and we're just going to, we're going to just beat our head against the wall until it works kind of deal. And then we've been a second half team all year. We've held teams in the second half to almost no points, and we've had much better offensive outings the second half, which kind of says, okay, they see what's happening and they're able to adjust and they kind of know what's going on, which, is very exciting and promising. But, here we are 7-4, third place. And so it's, basically 4th place on the line this week. So it's I don't know. It's going to be, jury's still out for me on what this whole program is going to look like come end of the season.
Sure. But that's a lot to be encouraged about, though. Like that's a coaching thing that you're seeing,
Right.
Like
it
the
seems
fact
that
that
way.
they see stuff in the opponent to say, okay, we're going to attack them this way this week. Like that's kind of, exciting. But like you said, you've had a bunch of 4th quarter wins, which obviously is exciting too, but also lets you know, they're making adjustments and out there.
I think the stat is Daniel Jones has 4 4th quarter comebacks so far on the season. Ooh. So, that's pretty exciting that we're able to do that, but also like kind of scary. Like, all right, everything's a close game. Like, when are we going to just blow somebody out and show that we're kind of a good team type of deal too?
Right. Well, we feel the same.
We feel the same, right?
We finally against the Texans had a relaxing 4th quarter. You know, you were able to hit the recliner up and, you know, just sit there and enjoy the game instead of being at the, you know, front edge of your seat or on the ground like I was, you know, in the last game on that final drive. I was like, we're done here. All right, so you talked about, here you go, we could do this. Well, let's do this. Jared posted in, which quarterback do we trust more, Jones or Heineke?
Oh, God.
I'm going to say Daniel Jones. Game on the line, final drive of the game. Who do you want with the ball?
I mean, I guess technically we had his 5 game-winning drives this year, so it's hard to say. Stats don't lie. We can kind of pick Jones there. But I don't know. Heineke kind of goes on these miraculous 6-7 game runs where he just seems to like nothing he does goes wrong. And so I don't know if this is another one of those situations. He's going to come crashing down to earth, or you know, is this finally the year he sustains that for, you know, like a full season type of situation too, you know?
Right.
So I mean, I'm obviously going to pick my guy, but
I'm going to pick Jones too. Sean, who do you pick?
I'm staying Homer. I'm saying Heineke. Look, we know how he's going to do the rest of the game. The other 58 minutes are going to be a struggle to watch. But those last 2, he's going to make you believe you can do anything.
It's true. So, I mean, you know he's going to throw it up to Terry, give him a chance to make a play. Exactly. That is true.
That's all we can ask for. That's all we can ask for.
I could see a strip sack coming for Daniel Jones for sure. So
defense, let's go. Now look. So you're 7-4, and obviously the last couple of weeks have been a little bit of a struggle. But like you said, what we're normally used to would be a top 5 pick or thinking about the draft or going for it. You guys have a new coach in Dayball who's doing great things, but you are kind of still in the rebuild. You're trying to build it back up. Is this success good for you guys, or, you know, are you kind of regretting it a little bit? We had some people in the Washington community be like, why are we winning? You know, we're missing out on maybe a Bryce Young or Will Anderson or something like that. Is this a good thing, having the success and dreaming about the potentially in the playoffs?
Absolutely. 100%. No doubt about it. It is always good to be winning. There's no substitute for that. We can talk about missed out draft picks, whatever. We picked, well, heck, everybody said we picked the wrong guys every time anyway. So, you know, it doesn't really matter. There's no guarantee that top 5, we've been picking top 5 for how many years in a row, and it hasn't led to anything. So let's try the bottom of the draft. Maybe we can pick somebody good from there. I don't know. I think it's always good to win. I think it could QB situation. I think we'll talk about in a little bit. It's probably could be a bad thing, I guess, in theory, if we're not going to get a shot at some of those top guys. But I think when you win, you change the feelings about the team. You change free agent signings. You change the belief from the fans. Obviously, you give the players some validation for all the work that they put in, and that's important for confidence. And you kind of, you can start to show if these young guys are seeing that winning's possible. And so when the next group of young guys come in, they'll believe more that winning is possible. And I think that's infectious. I think you can't substitute that out. I think it's hard to be a lose all the time and then somehow just flip it. You got to learn how to win. I think that's a real thing. So I'm not going to apologize. And as a fan, it's great to be able to sit here in December and have something meaningful to talk about. So selfishly, let's win. Let's keep going.
We feel the same way. You know, we've been talking about it for weeks now. When Washington was 2-4 and then 3-4, and it's like, okay, is this good or is this bad? Right. And we both said it's like, I don't want to be on here talking about another loss.
Yeah.
Like, I'll deal with the offseason and what do we do with Heineke, or, you know, can we say no to Aaron Rodgers next year? What I'm just making stuff up. But like, I'll deal with that. I'd rather have wins. Like, it's more fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think we've all played sports, right? We've been a part of things. Like it matters. Like it's hard to show up to practice the next day when you're not going to get better for the last 6 weeks of the season.
Great point.
If you're 1-12, like you can't. It's impossible for a human to show up every day and have that same type of dedication and motivation. You know, so being in this position only gives us, I think, more and more good quality reps and gives us confidence that, you know, even if it doesn't pan out as great. I mean, if it doesn't pan out this year, okay, but now we've seen it. We've done it before. And you can kind of build off of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. So let's talk about we're both like in very similar situations. We've got teams that rely on the run game. We've got a quarterback that doesn't really win, the opponent's not really scared of. So Daniel Jones, I think you did not tender him for his 5th year, right? So this is it. It's decision time on him now. He's 7-4. If he takes you to the playoffs and you look at what are your options out there besides him, what have things changed in big blue land to say we need to stick with him, or are people kind of more ready to move on from him?
I listen to a lot of sports talk radio up here, and from the fans calling in, it's still pretty split on who wants and who doesn't want him to come back. I think that it's still up in the air. I don't think they've made any sort of decision on it yet. And no, absolutely, Jared. They are.
No to Zach Wilson.
No, it's not even.
Right.
Couldn't care less about Zach Wilson. No, not even close. But we don't ask Daniel Jones to do a lot. You hit nail on the head. Like we hand the ball off 25 times a game, and he's running another 7 or 8 times a game. We don't ask him to. He's only thrown over 30 passes a couple of times throughout the year. He's turning it over a lot less than he had, in previous seasons. So I mean, I just don't think that there's that many quarterbacks where I look at. I'm like, that's the guy that's winning teams games. Like there's 3 or 4. There's 4 or 5 maybe. I don't think that there's that big of a gap between where Daniel Jones is and where some of those middle, whatever quarterbacks that aren't the elite top 3 quarterbacks, not Mahomes, obviously, whatever. But
right.
So if we make the playoffs, I 100% think he's coming back. I don't see franchise tag is going to be like 30 million or something ridiculous because of Deshaun Watson's contract on the top of it, pulling everything up. So you can't really, you franchise tag him. He's super expensive. What veteran are you going to get in place of him that's also not going to be $30 million a year if you think he's going to be any good? And I don't think that Daniel Jones is going to demand a $30 million a year contract. I don't think he fits that. I don't think he fits that build. I think he knows that. I think he knows he's got to kind of prove himself a little bit more. So I'm thinking you can get him in for 20, 25, like for 2 or 3 years, and something that's not, super long-term max kind of deal. Mm-hmm. I don't know how you're going to do better than that cap-wise or just based off of his performance. I think he's improving. He's having his best statistical season. He's winning games in the fourth quarter. You give him year 2 in a system with coaches who seem like they know what they're doing, and maybe he can take that next step. And if he doesn't, okay, well, then we'll be picking in the top 5 again, and we'll have another quarter. Right. I don't see what the alternative is to bringing him back. Now, if we don't make the playoffs, I don't think fans are going to want him back.
Okay.
Because I think you're 7-2, and he can't even get you 2 or 3 more wins to get you into the playoffs. I think then it's a harder sell. I still probably would want to bring him back, but I just don't. Who's out there and available that we really, really love and believe in that can win us a championship that isn't going to immediately put us in some sort of cap situation, which we're already not in a really good cap situation thanks to Mr. Gettleman. So I just don't see any way around bringing him back.
Well, think of it's kind of interesting. It's a great point that you said about like, what are you going to do that's better? This whole league got into this free agency quarterback frenzy last year because of the success of Brady and then Stafford. But look what's happened to all the quarterbacks that changed teams. You could make the argument that Marcus Mariota has been the best signing or quarterback change out there, and
he's making
and
like
he's terrible.
And he's making like $8 million a year, and he can't throw.
He cannot throw. Right. So it's a good point of like, I mean, we know it. We went from Ryan Fitzpatrick, to Carson Wentz, and we're paying him $28 million, which is a lot, but then also, isn't a lot. It's right. It's like the quarterbacks cost money, but we've now gone 2 years in a row of getting a franchise starter, and it hasn't worked out. So they keep getting hurt too. And so that, so it's like, what are your alternatives?
Yeah. I mean, there's the pipe dream of Aaron Rodgers, because Lord knows what's going to happen, with him if he, but that's a stopgap anyways. Like who knows what he's got left in him. And then all the other quarterbacks that like say they're going to be available, like Jimmy Garoppolo, cool, but like everybody doesn't believe in Jimmy Garoppolo either. So
how is
like,
he different than Daniel Jones?
Right, he's worse than Daniel Jones. He can't run. Like,
right.
So I don't know. I just don't see. I don't see who's out there that, and I don't know what the quarterback class is looking like as far as, what's going to be available in the teens and the 20s, and maybe they fall in love with somebody, and that's a whole nother story type of deal.
Right.
But outside of knowing who they love from the college game and what they really evaluate them as and where they think they can get them, I don't want to be trading we're not in a position to trade draft capital to move up in the draft to pick a quarterback because we don't have any depth. So
right.
To me, it's like they did pretty decent, I think, in the draft this year. They got a couple of guys that seem to be contributing. So do that again, run Daniel Jones back. He's obviously not the reason we're losing. And he may not be the reason we're winning, but I think he kind of is sometimes, but he's not really the reason we're losing. So
yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a run it back situation, and I hope that we can get him at a fairly cap friendly deal to go with it. And then you're in a really good spot if he pans out, because then you're getting him cheap and you're able to, we've seen quarterbacks I'd take Jimmy Garoppolo's NFC championship every other, I'd live with that.
Right.
That'd be fun too. So I don't know.
I think we're in a similar situation with Heineke, and I talked to Will about this, where it's like, do we want to go after somebody else? But the last 2 years, he had the Fitzpatrick, and he gets hurt in the first quarter of the daggone game, and then obviously the whole situation with Carson Wentz, and it's just like, let's build, let's get the depth, let's go in the draft, and just keep building up the team, build up that defense, build up the O-line, and so that when we need to potentially go to get a quarterback or figure out what we have here, we can then do that. We don't have to worry. It won't be as much of a need to do it. It'd be because, okay, we're moving on. This is where we're going. But a lot of these quarterbacks now that are coming in, you still need somebody like a Daniel Jones, somebody like a starter that can stay in there and then to sit. I maybe see one quarterback that could maybe potentially come in and start day one, but he still needs the right system.
Right.
He still needs the right set. You just can't trust it. But going back to what you were saying about you said your first rounder, some of the draft picks. How are your draft picks doing? You had a couple first round guys. What do you think?
Yeah. We had 2 first rounders, Thibodeau, the edge guy, Kayvon Thibodeau out of Oregon, and Evan Neal, tackle from Alabama. They both missed a little bit of time for injuries. Thibodeau missed the start of the season, missed the first couple of games, but he seems to be coming on pretty strong. He statistically, if you looked at it, you wouldn't really think so. He's only got 1 sack, 1 forced fumble, and I think both on the same play actually to beat Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. But he had 5 quarterback hits last week against Dallas. Mm-hmm. So he's starting to kind of, when you watch the game, you were like, oh, there's 5. Oh, there's 5 again. And he kind of reminds me of your guy maybe coming back this week, Chase Young. He's similar body type, similar just freakish athlete that just kind of, I feel like you might feel the same way. Statistically, you feel like he should have a little bit more than he does, but I think he disrupts the game in more ways than you kind of realize, on the stat sheet type of deal. And Neal's been over at right tackle and started from day one until he's got like a knee issue. I guess he's potentially coming back on Sunday as well. But by all accounts, I'm not a big offensive line grader, but he seems to be, he doesn't have a lot of holding penalties. He hasn't been just like abused like some of these guys that have filled his place have been. And so he seems to be doing really well opposite Andrew Thomas, who's kind of coming into his own there at left tackle. So I feel like the foundation is good for those 2 guys. And I like Shane's draft picks there. And he's hit on a couple of mid-round guys too. He's got the 4th round pick with Daniel Bellinger as a tight end. Again, he had a really great start to the year. He had a freak injury down in Jacksonville. He got poked in the eye, had fractured his eye socket. Never even heard of that before. Supposedly he's practicing with a visor and maybe he's going to be able to return by the end of the year. But I think that's you got to really wait for that injury to kind of heal up. I don't think that's when you got to sort of play through a type of deal. So I'm not sure we'll see him. And then there's a couple of secondary guys that have started to play a little bit more. Dane Belton's a safety from Iowa. He's been playing pretty much all season long, special teams too. And then we've had a lot of rookies play, but I think mostly some of them are because of injuries. So it just seems like Shane did a pretty good job. He's at the very least, these guys seem like depth pieces that will be a part of it. If maybe they're not studs, but they're playing and they're being, they're not a detriment to the team. So,
right.
So it's encouraging with the draft picks, and hopefully, he can hit again next year.
Well, it's kind of funny. It's like it's reciprocal. Where a couple of years ago, when the Redskins hired Rivera, we were at that Twin Peaks.
Oh,
and you're
right,
like,
right.
You're like, dang it, I like Ron Rivera, so I don't like you guys getting him. And I didn't know how to pronounce the guy's name. So Joe Shane is that Shane. Yeah. And it's like, that's who I wanted to be Washington's GM the year before. It's like, I want that Buffalo blueprint, and like you said, he made some moves this offseason. I don't know how much he's played, so you'll have to tell me, but I really liked the guard from the Colts that you guys picked up. Glowinski.
Yeah, Glowinski, that's his land. Yeah, he's been. I mean, I think he's had again. We've been just like hurt a lot, so he might have been in and out of the lineup. But the line has not really been doesn't seem to be the issue that we've been having up until that we've been having in the past. Really, everybody just keeps talking about receivers for us, and I guess I glossed over him. Wan'Dale Robinson, he was our second round pick. He finally had his first breakout game and tears his ACL on the like he wasn't even in the field to play. Like he got like pushed out of bounds and just like awkwardly fell and hurt it. Like, one of those Odell Beckham turf issues that he'd always
Did it happen at MetLife Stadium?
It did happen at MetLife Stadium. So it's just like it's a disaster there. So good luck. Bring your knee braces this week.
Right.
It apparently happens all the time. But to me, when I watch the games, it's like the offensive line holds up in pass protection, and we are doing a good job moving Jones out of the pocket. We run a ton of bootleg passes, and which allows him to kind of get off and run a little bit. And then we've, up until the last 2 weeks, we've run the football. So Barkley's having a decent year where we're able to move the line in the running game. So I don't really think it's the line, but it's like when you see them drop back to pass, if the receiver's in a one-on-one situation, they do not win, ever.
Okay.
They don't win one-on-one battles. They're open because of scheme. They're not open because they're just better than the guy lining up on the other side of them. And that's, and we have 22 drops already on the season as a wide receiver. Like that's insane for 11 games to have legitimate, like, not like one-handed kind of like legitimate recorded statistical drops.
Yeah, right.
And that if you add those in to Jones's stats, then we might be talking about a completely different situation, because that's probably 30, 40 yards a game that he might be, because they're not all 5-yard passes that are drops. And some of them were, 25-yard dig routes that are, wide open, and he just doesn't catch the ball. So I don't know. I feel like the wide receiver core is what's really holding the offense back. But I don't know. Everybody seems to have wide receivers. We can't find one. So if you know any, call them up.
We were in that for so long. Drafting Josh Doxson and signing Terrell Pryor, and like that year in 2008 when we drafted 3 pass catchers in the second round, and they were all out of the league by 2010. I know exactly how it feels. But I think it's right, like you said, when it comes to Dable and Shane, where they had this talent, Kadarius Toney, and they're like, not working out, get out. Galladay, not working out, we're not playing you. It's like, you gotta give them hats off to them on that for recognizing that.
100%, and I think it sends a message to the rest of the group, right? Like it says nobody's like Kadarius Toney, undoubtedly talented. Like I'm like kind of, I want to say happy he's got another hamstring injury, but I was pretty nervous he was going to break out with the Chiefs like that first day he could play. And I was like, here we go. And we're going to look like assholes because sorry if I can't cuss. We're going to look terrible because we just traded him away for a 3rd and a 6th round pick and gave up on him. But, by all accounts, he wasn't attacking his rehab the right way. Have you ever heard of a guy hurting his left hamstring when his right hamstring is hurt?
No.
Like, how do you hurt the other hamstring when you're rehabbing? Like you're not doing it the right way. So he wasn't doing the things that they asked him to do. And Galladay, I don't think is the same after his hip injury. I just don't think he has it anymore. More than anything else for me, I just don't think he's that good anymore. And so to show a guy making $20 million a year and say, sit your butt down, and then you're a first-round draft pick 1 year ago, boom, see you later. You don't do what this team is going to do going forward. I think in the long run, it's going to be a difference between what makes or breaks the staff. I mean, obviously, it's at one point, if you don't now replace him with talent and win, then okay, it doesn't really matter either way. But I just think that's kind of how Dable. You see Dable screaming at people on the sidelines all the time, like
that ref.
You don't care. Like he's in your face and he's holding them accountable for what they're supposed to do on the field. And it's refreshing. And so I don't know. I hope he's handling it right, and hopefully we can get somebody in, because we obviously could use a talent like Tony.
Right.
But he couldn't get on the field for countless reasons. So
no, I mean, it was year 2 and he wasn't making an impact. I do agree with Jared. Like when he was drafted, I was like, oh man, the Giants got this guy.
Right?
Oh, you're the only one. This is what you would have, if you were with me this year or last year for the draft roll, you just saw me screaming at the television, because I watched him too many times at Florida be the same guy, hurt,
really
showboating. It just never. He didn't fit. He didn't fit for me. But I've been wrong many a times too. So I was happy last year when he kind of showed out a little bit. I was like, oh, here he goes. But he's got a rapper young Joka name. Like he is
yep.
Football may not be his only passion.
His Instagram, the dude is
crazy. More about the image. It's the image.
Let me tell you, Sean. So we were watching the draft in 2018, and that's when Daniel Jones gets picked at 6 overall, and the Corey just goes, what? And then the Redskins go pick up Dwayne Haskins at 15, and I'm like, oh, and like
I was happy we didn't pick up Haskins. Like,
I was so happy out of there, like with our heads down, like, man, I just don't feel good about this.
Yeah, it happens every year too. I was the same way when we picked OBJ and one pick in front of Zach Martin. I was like, I just wanted the guard. Like, just give me the guard. Like, that's all I wanted. Like, I don't want a big wide receiver. I want a guard. That's what I want when I draft.
Right. All right. So last question before we start getting into the upcoming game here is, give us an update on some of our ex-Redskins. You've got Fabian Moreau, that's a starting corner. I'm like, holy crap, he's still in the league. And then Landon Collins re-signed with you, but I don't know, has he played?
Landon's played. He played 2 weeks before the 2 weeks before our bye. He played like minimal snaps and has not been elevated off the practice squad since the bye. So I don't know, which is super interesting, because McKinney rode his ATV too hard in Mexico and broke his, I don't know if you knew the story. He was on a guided ATV tour. Xavier Kinney, our supposedly defensive captain, like play caller, right? Green dot guy.
Oh no.
He's riding a ATV on a guided tour in Cabo and breaks his wrist during the bye week.
Right?
Wow.
Now somebody called into the fan I was listening to, and again, I don't know, could be making jokes. We said, yeah, that guided tour makes 3 stops at different tequila bars along the way. So Lord knows if he was drunk, like if he just got. There's nothing ever. They did a really good job of protecting him. And nothing really came out about whether he was doing something dumb or like he was just a freak accident, like either, like whatever the case may be. So he's like on the non-football injury list. Like he was gone for 4 weeks. So I think he might be eligible next week if he's healthy for Philly. I think would be his 4th. But so I figured, okay, well for sure now Collins gonna like. Oh, great. We got Landon Collins kind of on reserve to fill in. He hasn't been able to get off the practice squad. So don't know.
Y'all may be seeing what we saw, which I mean, well, one, he's not a safety. We didn't want to
sign him in the first place back, when you signed him, we didn't want him. So
right, exactly. Like coaches may be seeing, although like, I mean, yeah, it's like he's not a safety anymore. And he doesn't want to be a linebacker, but that is the position that he plays well in,
Right, he's a run stopper.
It's just he doesn't want to be that type of thing.
And
but
so
he made plays last year for us.
He's not going to play.
Exactly.
He's always been a little bit of a play. He's always kind of had his nose around the football. He always kind of made some big plays. But you're right. He was never really a safety. He was an eighth man in the box type of guy.
To me, it makes me wonder, what is he like in that locker room? If he's not wanting to do, if he wants to do certain things and coaches want him to do something else.
I read up a little on him today, actually, and he said, he's saying the right things as far as he's obviously disappointed he isn't playing, but he's happy to be like a guy in the locker room, giving help to the younger guys and all this sort of stuff. So he's saying the right things, at least being a professional about it. But yeah, I got to wonder, he must not be able to do what they need him to do in that position. Otherwise, he would be out there. I mean, we got like 3 rookies starting in the secondary. So because Fabian Moreau was having a very good, solid start to the year. It was opposite of Dory Jackson. They were playing real good pass defense, and now he's got some sort of oblique issue. I don't know. It went out in the Lions game, and he's, I guess, questionable this week. But I don't know if he practiced or not today. But so we're thin in the secondary. Dory Jackson's out knee, so we could get, if Moreau can come back, it would be a huge help for us. He's had a pretty good season, to be honest.
Gotcha. Yeah, he's been in the league a long time, and when we drafted him, he was one of those guys that they're like, well, he got hurt in college. He would have been a first round pick, so they got him to the 3rd. But it took him forever to, we had him like 4 years, and he still wasn't making plays. So, I think it's his 7th or 8th year in the league. So, it's been so long since.
Yeah, he doesn't have any like big plays, any picks or anything, but he's in the right spot, does his job kind of guy. So
sure,
it's something you can rely on at least.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks for watching. If you like that clip, be sure to check out the other great content from the Let's Talk Football community. And as always, please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you'll be notified when more great content like this becomes available.